thank you very much for the invitation to be here, and I would like to congratulate the Plymouth science community for bringing all of us together here to discuss the importance of the ocean and the goods and services that it provides to human beings, and I truly am honored to be among such august company. I've been asked to kick off the conference with a focus on challenges caused by the exploitation of the ocean and its resources, and also on some possible solutions for sustainable use of the ocean. So I'll try, but I'm really here to learn more than I am to tell. But first, the obligatory whirlwind version of what my organization does. That, as Steve said, is the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, which is the UN Educational, Scientific, which is where we fit, cultural organization. So, away we go. The IOC of UNESCO happens to be the only organization within the UN system and the only intergovernmental body with a mandate in ocean science in all ocean basins of the world. Established in 1960, the IOC was created to promote international cooperation and to coordinate programs in research, science, and capacity building in order to generate knowledge about the nature and resources of the ocean and coastal states, and secondly, to apply that knowledge for the improvement of management, for protection of the marine environment, for sustainable development, and the decision-making processes of its now 144 member states. Currently, the IOC has 4 high-level objectives. We think that these respond to the major challenges facing the global ocean. First, preventing and reducing impacts of natural marine hazards, such as tsunamis. The IOC coordinates all the tsunami warning systems around the globe. Second, mitigating the impacts of and adapting to climate change, and we do this largely but not solely through our leadership in the Global Ocean Observing System, or GOOS. The third is safeguarding the health of ocean ecosystems. Again, we do this somewhat through leadership in such initiatives as the World Ocean Assessment, which is probably better known as the UN regular process on the global reporting of the state of the marine environment. And finally, promoting management procedures and policies leading to the sustainability of coastal and ocean environment and resources. Within the UN system, the IOC serves as the focal point for ocean observations, ocean science, ocean services, and information and data exchange. And the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea considers the IOC to be the competent international organization for marine science. So really, the IOC is the scientific community's voice within the UN system. Okay, so let's talk about the ocean. Now, as you know, it covers 71% of the Earth's surface, accounts for 97% of the Earth's water, contains 96% of the living space, and provides 2/3 of the value of all the natural services provided by the planet, and it gives us the oxygen for every second breath that we take. So you would think that everybody would think that it's important. It has cushioned the blow of climate change by absorbing 25 to 30% of all anthropogenic carbon emissions, and 80% of the heat added to the global system. So it regulates the weather, and it provides food for billions of people. The ocean and its resources, of course, are part of our common heritage and a very important part of many cultures whose beliefs and practices are closely associated with the marine and coastal environment. In fact, 49 UNESCO World Heritage Sites have been inscribed for their coastal or marine values. The ocean is also offering more and more exciting opportunities for the development of new drugs to treat all sorts of human ailments, and non-market benefits, which I've already mentioned, such as climate regulation, carbon sequestration, habitat, and biodiversity, among others. So in fact, the ocean is priceless. Worldwide, the ocean is a critical economic resource. The value of marine activities globally is estimated at 5% of global GDP, if we like GDP, or somewhere between 3 and 6 trillion US dollars. 90% of all goods is transported by the ocean. More than 40% of the human population lives within the coastal zone, with projections that by 2025 this could increase to 75%, a scary thought, I'd say. Fisheries provide about 4.2 billion people with more than 15% of their average per capita intake of animal protein. and fisheries and aquaculture provide more than 180 million jobs. But in fact, the ocean supports many industries, not just fisheries, aquaculture, and shipping, but also oil and gas, marine and coastal tourism, including cruise ships, submarine cables and pipelines, dredging, ports, offshore renewable energy, mining, and more. So the ocean is an integral part of our planet. It is the planet ocean. It is the blue planet. And it is an absolutely essential component of human lives, livelihoods, and the environment that sustains us. Now, despite our reliance on marine resources and the remaining untapped potential, there are also large threats that I'm sure you know about. Ocean acidification, climate change, and polluting activities and overexploitation of marine resources have made the ocean one of the Earth's most threatened ecosystems. I'm going to give you only a few examples of how human activities threaten the ocean and its precious resources, but I do feel that it's a bit like carrying coals to Newcastle, given how much expertise resides right here in Plymouth and, in fact, in this room today. The ocean absorbs more than 26% of carbon dioxide, as I said, emitted to the atmosphere from human activities. And of course, the result is increased acidity. Now, among other effects, this can reduce the availability of calcium for plankton and shelled species, threatening their survival. And since many of these organisms are at the base of the food chain, the potential impact of ocean acidification on entire ecosystems can, of course, be dramatic. In business as usual scenarios, which seems to be the way we're going, oops, did I just do that? The ocean could become 150% more acidic by the year 2100. Now, land-based sources such as agricultural runoff, discharge of nutrients and pesticides, and untreated sewage, including plastics, account for approximately 80% of marine pollution globally. Excess nutrients from sewage outfalls and agricultural runoff have contributed to the rise in the number of dead zones from 49 in the 1960s to well over 400 in 2008, with a complete collapse of some ecosystems. And nowadays, more than 245,000 square kilometers are affected, which is equivalent approximately to the size of the United Kingdom. Continuing with some of the threats, over 80% of the world's 232 marine ecoregions have reported the presence of invasive species, which is the second most significant cause of biodiversity loss on a global scale. Marine bioinvasion rates have been reported to be as high as up to 1 invasion every 9 weeks. I suspect that's slowing down now, but who knows? The world's marine capture fisheries are in severe trouble. The FAO estimates that 85% of fish stocks are fully exploited, overexploited, depleted, or recovering from depletion. So in fact, the ocean faces a multitude of interconnected threats that is unprecedented in modern human history. All regions of the ocean stand to be impacted by multiple stressors in the near future, while over 40% of marine ecosystems are already simultaneously facing several of the major pressures that I've outlined previously. So the need to understand the complex interactions and the potentially cumulative effects of multiple stressors is a pressing issue for marine ecology today. Now, the stressors can be divided into 2 categories. First, those that act globally but with varying intensity, such as increased temperature, decreased oxygen, and ocean acidification. And secondly, those that act at a local to a regional level, but which occur globally, such as overfishing, pollution, increased nutrients, and hypoxia. The coexistence of more than one threat can create impacts that are greater than the sum of the parts, or a so-called synergistic response. And the risk of such responses has been shown to double where 3 or more stressors intersect. So the potential for synergies is one of the largest uncertainties surrounding the prediction of the impact of anthropogenic stressors. So the ocean, which was once thought to be a vast, resilient area, able to absorb practically unlimited waste and to withstand increasing human population, fishing, and shipping pressures, is increasingly vulnerable, which is why we're here today. And as the use of ocean space and resources is an essential component for global economic growth and prosperity, we now have to shift our way of using the ocean toward a human-ocean-centered relationship where humankind would be living with the ocean and from the ocean in a sustainable way. Now, there's no universally accepted definition of the blue-green economy. There's not even acceptance that there is such a thing as a blue-green economy. But key dimensions could include a greater adoption of renewable energy from the ocean, changes in fisheries and aquaculture management regimes at national and regional levels, adaptation to sea level rise and climate change, protection and restoration of ocean ecosystems and biodiversity, including in areas beyond national jurisdiction, and perhaps to include marine protected areas, and active seafloor management, and others. Global ocean economic activity, as I said, is estimated at between 3 and 6 trillion US dollars per year. I'm not an economist, so I can be challenged on these numbers. But this includes a wide range of ocean industries essential to both current and future economic development. Now, a major change for future green management will also include partnerships among industry, governments at all levels, and communities, and I'll give you a few examples. Future green practices in the ocean will see major changes in the nature, location, and intensity of fishing and aquaculture. This will likely include the development of offshore large-scale aquaculture, and we hope the better management of fisheries, including foreign fishing activities in domestic waters, through improved monitoring, control, and surveillance, and the realization of a greater share of net benefits from fishery resources. Green practices in aquaculture should promote the growth of extractive species such as seaweeds and filter-feeding shellfish, and lower trophic level farming, which convert food to fish protein more efficiently than carnivorous species. This could also include integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, or IMTA, which provides the byproducts, including waste from one aquatic species as inputs, such as fertilizer and food, for another. Now, with significant reductions in ship source pollution over the past 3 decades, technological developments toward improved hull design, alternative sources of ship's fuel, increasing fuel efficiency, and enhanced concern for environmental matters, maritime transport will be a core element of the blue-green economy. Technological advances are allowing deep oil and deeper oil and gas exploration and drilling. But the contribution to climate change from the fossil fuel energy sector will, of course, put increasing pressure on the energy sector to invest in alternative renewables technologies in the future. The Earth's ocean contains large amounts of untapped, clean, renewable energy resources that can play a significant role in our future energy portfolio, and indeed some feel that this is where the most potential lies. Ocean energy sources could become the primary energy source for some resource-rich coastal communities. Now, for tourism, greening the blue economy implies that switching from non-sustainable tourism to ecotourism and other sustainable tourism practices goes along with the generation of other forms of revenues. There are 2 good examples of countries with a rich underwater heritage that have constructed major museums which have contributed to sustainable development. The first, the Vasa Shipwreck Museum in Sweden, which is visited by 1 million visitors a year and is one of the country's most important museums. And second, the Bodrum Museum in the Bodrum Castle of the Knights of St. John in Turkey. When excavations of the Uluburun wreck started in 1959, Bodrum had approximately 5,000 inhabitants. But through the valorization of the wreck in the Bodrum Castle, tourism has increased greatly, and the castle is now the 2nd most visited museum in Turkey. Marine biotechnology, including the protection of intellectual property rights, will be, of course, an important part of the future blue-green economy. This does imply greater protection of biodiversity, including biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, alongside increased investment in scientific research and commercialization of new and existing opportunities, with sectors such as pharmaceuticals, food production, and aquaculture all being important. Now, regarding pollution, a combination of technological advances through clean technologies, aligned with a much greater institutional willingness to deal with difficult issues, and the application of state-of-the-art policy, regulatory, and economic instruments should provide a basis for reducing pollution, especially the impacts of excess nutrients in the marine environment. As the primary user of the ocean, industry is well placed to develop and implement solutions in response to society's increasing demands. That marine ecosystem use is sustainable and impacts are reduced, and we are seeing some industries starting to step up to the plate. The industries that is, also have a huge potential to collect oceanographic data that contribute to better modeling and predicting ocean conditions, extreme weather events, and climate change that impact economies and livelihoods. Developing public-private partnerships could be a good way to find solutions to impacts and to improve ocean data. Now, greening sectoral management would be a huge step toward a greener blue economy, yet pressured by the importance of the cumulative impacts I've mentioned. Issue-specific management strategies are not likely to be enough to shift toward a blue-green economy. So integrated management is most important. Tools supporting integrated management do exist. Marine ecosystem-based management requires a new generation of spatial planning tools to empower marine managers to implement best policies. And I'm going to give you a few examples of existing management tools. Being the interface between the land and the ocean, coastal areas are affected by highly dynamic processes. So integrated coastal zone management is still a relatively new and evolving concept, but the integration principle was developed in Agenda 21 from the first Rio Summit in 1992 as a tool to pursue sustainable development in coastal zones. There's a need for at least 5 different dimensions of integration among sectors, among levels of government, across the land-water interface, among disciplines, and among nations, especially when nations share an enclosed or semi-enclosed body of water. Also on integration, marine spatial planning is a public process of analyzing and allocating the spatial and temporal distribution of human activities in marine areas to achieve ecological, economic, and social objectives that usually have been specified through a political process. Characteristics of MSP include being ecosystem-based, area-based, integrated, adaptive, strategic, and participatory. Marine spatial planning, of course, is not an end in itself, but it is a practical way to create and establish a more rational use of marine space and the interactions among its uses, to balance demands for development with the need to protect the environment, and to achieve social and economic objectives in an open and a planned way. And a step-by-step approach for implementing marine spatial planning has been developed by the IOC of UNESCO. The Marine E-Data Observatory Network is a project coordinated by PML, which aims to develop, test, and disseminate a new concept of coastal monitoring based on a network of innovative real-time cabled marine observatories and oriented toward end users. Cabled seafloor observatories, which also include Neptune and Venus off Canada's Pacific coast, are an emerging technology capable of providing an effective platform for real-time and high-resolution monitoring, provided they are adapted to the needs of end users and are not intrusive to the environment. It's also a great instrument providing data for education and public outreach to promote the marine environment, and I would say that both scientists and end users will benefit from free access to the data in near real time. Now, these tools for integrated management are and will continue to play a key role in managing the ocean and its coastal resources in a sustainable manner. And as I stated earlier, the ocean and coasts were addressed in Agenda 21 following the first Earth Summit. But despite international efforts and initiatives, the implementation of many international agreements has been slow. Having said that, during recent international summits, conferences, and negotiations, the ocean community has demonstrated a great ability to invest and influence negotiation. during the UNFCCC, the climate change conferences of parties in Copenhagen, Cancun, and Durban, successful ocean days were organized. And during the Rio+20 negotiations, the ocean community was very much mobilized, with over 375 participants taking part in the Oceans Day, and an unprecedented number of side events having been organized around ocean issues. Indeed, at the beginning of negotiations in 2011, the ocean was absent from the Rio+20 negotiations. But at the end, and in the outcomes document entitled The Future We Want, 18 paragraphs deal with the ocean and coast. I see this as a real success, even if we might not be happy with all the commitments. Several initiatives were announced and started during the Rio+20 preparatory process, and they need to be followed up, including an Ocean Acidification International Coordination Center in Monaco. And there seems to be widespread support among member states for the formulation of a sustainable development goal dedicated to the ocean, and I see this crowd here could be very instrumental in that. And just 1 month ago, on the 12th of August, the Yosu Expo 2012, whose theme was the living ocean and coast, wound up with the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon launching his Oceans Compact. I have one copy, but you can find it online. This new initiative is aimed at protecting the ocean and the people whose livelihoods depend on it. Its intent is to increase coordination of efforts within the UN system regarding ocean protection, and it will also provide a platform to help countries protect the ocean's natural resources, restore their full food production, to help people whose livelihoods depend on the sea, and increase awareness and knowledge about the management of the oceans. So let me close by stating that I believe we have in front of us a unique opportunity to change the way we utilize and manage our ocean and coasts. All nations of the world, including the landlocked ones, have a stake in a healthy and productive ocean. We know that the ocean is vital for the proper functioning of the world we live in, and yet for far too long we have acted as if our impacts on it do not matter. The ocean does offer huge potential in terms of economic development, but I hope I've been able to outline that there are also huge potential threats to ecologic and social goals. I do believe the solutions are there, but what is needed at this stage is strong political commitment from the international community as well as from decision makers at national and regional levels to ensure that future ocean development is indeed truly sustainable. So I thank you for your attention, and I look very much forward to the discussions today. Thank you.